I'm going to tell you about the ride I went on yesterday on the river. I saw a flock of small white birds that pedalled in the water, but I couldn't look for long and can't be completely sure they were birds. I wasn't aware of much, but surrounding greenery, I thought of the word verdant, and the river, darkly reflective as videotape, moving in my direction as if fast forwarding. At a small bridge, I stopped to look at it, clear and peaty up close, a tincture like good American filter coffee, light coming through it like it does through the word American. For a minute I felt I was in California or New Zealand or somewhere very filmic, and if I went on enough rides this summer they'd trace out something, maybe, the shape of a memory. The kids from church were on my street when I returned, dressed as superheroes, but no one mentioned it. They complimented my surname and dispersed, saying they'll be back next week. When they said next week, the light came through it in a partial way it does through verdant and American. They just rang, they'll be back tomorrow, leaving me admiring the many vowels in your name, and how should I say it?
Leaving South Bend, Indiana, I paid a man a small fee to dismember my bicycle and fold it into a box. It's a kingly bike when intact, purple to match a certain dress and with heft. Purchased at the Meyer family supermarket on Portage, I cycled it right out of the shop. Witnessing its dismemberment, I happened to have a pain in my jaw from grinding my teeth at night. That old night grinding that comes upon me at certain times, of which I would never learn the cause. Christ, I said, even then, I missed my bicycle. I noticed your surname, of course. The St. Joe River is the river my bicycle knows best, studded with turtles on half-submerged logs, each of which clips into the river in turn as a bicycle passes. Somehow, when I was expecting there in America, someone convinced me I couldn't ride a bicycle all heavy with child, and now, arriving in Europe, I saw cheerful round bellies whizzing by and felt a stabbing resentment. All that lost time I could have spent on my bicycle. And all I can confirm in the end is that light is a subjective matter, since I think of vowels as small pockets of shadow, sags and bags. Words like filmic and American and verdant seem fenced. Perhaps all words, from alpha to river. Soon the World Cup was over, and we were all talking about Gaza, and my bicycle was still in its box, the gaps pellucid between its spokes and shanks.
There are things I'm not seeing. The bicycle I bought in New Zealand is less than a feeling, its frame so reflective, its most solid aspect is its shadow. I remember riding by the English River when it was a new kind of blue, not English at all really. The night in New Zealand had a dark violet tinge because of the hole in the ozone layer, and then the nights were orange. Under street lights, my bicycle rearranged its angles on the sidewalks of Papa Nui Street, knees and elbows paralleled like an antique continent, eclipsed by other bicycles. Its districts are a series of street views from hilltop bakeries, a route that loops a grey-green town. You can enter a memory the same way you left it, off to see your sweetheart. Can I tell you how love knocked me off my bicycle? A jolt as the front wheel failed to mount the pavement. The colours. Weird how I must have made those slanting vowels, trying to lean them on southern breezes before they were poems, and I fell off my sentences like too many maybes.
Dear Sam Riviere, I'm going to tell you about putting my 2 feet into a bone-cold river up to the ankles. Dear Sam Riviere, I'm going to tell you about panning for mica in the rust-brown riverbed, its minute palmed, pearled permutations. Dear Sam Riviere, I'm going to tell you about the tiny caddisfly larvae retreating into their pebble-dash houses. Dear Sam Riviere, I'm going to tell you there's fool's gold there, but I've never found it. Dear Sam Riviere, once I came here with a man and exposed my 2 breasts to the air, I recall the goosebumps. Dear Sam Riviere, dear, dear Sam Riviere, I'm going to tell you about my sister. Dear Sam Riviere, I'm going to tell you where the river begins, so you can climb up there and drink the water. I'm going to tell you about stepping into a patch of sucking mud and leaving 1 boot behind, Sam Riviere. about finding a dead shrew, goat's droppings like Maltesers. Coming out of the woods higher up where the winds grow and the sky is enormous. Dear Sam Riviere, I'm going to tell you, you can see the sea from here.
Here are some of the ways people have advised me to pronounce your name. Ashley, Ash, Eugenie, Elsa, Isla, Eilíon, Ailbhe. Dear Miss Darcy, what endearments am I allowed? Only your descriptions make my heart heave, and I'm guessing you've heard enough about my bicycle. Dear Miss Darcy, to speak of vowels is dangerous. Dear Miss Darcy, I wish you wouldn't call me dear, unless you are completely and perfectly and incandescently happy. Dear Miss Darcy, what if a catastrophe happens, like if just by standing next to someone you knew something about them, and I don't mean the colour of their dress. Dear Miss Darcy, I could tell you about the cursed greenstone in rivers and the test of fetching a rock from the bottom, or about streams that run warm as bathwater, and if you stay in too long the steam makes you grow sleepy. They say you see a host of white things that might be petals carried towards you before you slip under. Dear Miss Darcy, I can imagine worse things than being carried downstream on a raft of girls' names. Maybe it's strange to call a river anything. Dear Miss Darcy, I'm convinced that one sonnet would kill me. Dear Miss Darcy, I hope you'll understand me if I tell you I have stayed in many hotels, but it has been a long time since I went swimming. Dear Miss Darcy, I'll never ask about your sister, Miss Darcy, that I can promise.
Presently, a catastrophe happened. I found that just by standing next to someone, I knew something about them. I could see the gaps and spokes, as though a typewritten caption hung in the air. I began to smell honey where honey could not be, at the end of a stone passage or some windy turn in the road, and it came always with certain thoughts. I had been told that the first vowel of my name was unpronounceable by me, given the peculiar nature of my upbringing. And now I discovered what made me grind my teeth at night, what methods could be used to persuade me of this or that other notion. It became transparent. I was drawn into the streets with less and less frequency, reluctant to learn what heaves some stranger's heart, or how another one unknown to me dreads being fully known to her sister. Or worse, the knowledge of some petty pride taken in the shade of a dress or a paint job, some individual's preference to swim or not swim, all of which drear knowledge came to me unbidden. I began to drink heavily. I began to imagine there were worse things than being carried downstream, warm as bathwater in some given river, worse things than the names of rivers. I stopped answering the door to callers. Callers came with less and less frequency. If I could think of some place that I could depend upon, some reliable place, I would take my bicycle and ride out there. As it is, I wait for the cure.
Thank you.